All right. Evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Teachers Certification course here. We are glad to have everyone with us who might be joining us online or here locally as we social distance in the facility here. We're going to continue here with the Chapter 2 of the Character Unit. And for those who were watching last class, I know that the previous teacher set it up so that you will have a wonderful song. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I will not be singing to start this class off. In fact, I think if I did sing, it probably would disappoint you. But hopefully you did go over page 49 there, the song entitled My Family and Me. And of course, if you remember, that song there is kind of a, it's kind of an extracurricular activity there to cap off what we were talking about in regards to All in the Family, okay? Because again, this is Chapter 2 of the Character Unit, and we're rehearsing the different types of characters that we see and how they affect the family. Now, in Chapter 1, of course, we talked about the basis of what character is. Right, and the difference between positive and negative character and where it comes from and excuse me, how it affects us and how it affects our decision making and affects others as well. Well, as we see here, because the theme continues on throughout all the units of the Peaceful Solution, you learn about what that concept is that you're going to be learning, and then you learn about how it affects you, and then starts to build from there. And of course, these are continually building blocks. Well, in regards to this, in Chapter 2, we see that we talk about the family. Well, why is the family so important? Because the family plays an important part in the development of a person's character from their infancy up through their adulthood. So it's very important to kind of lay that foundation. And as teachers, as the previous teachers mentioned in the other classes, it's important for us to have all these things in mind, right? When we're teaching our students this, they're not going to know any of this information initially, not until we actually teach it to them. And we might have to go over it with them again and again and again because we don't retain everything the first time we learn it, okay? And this is why a person will go to school, and within that school year, they do learn new things, but for the most part, they're rehearsing the same thing over and over and over throughout that school year to kind of drive it deeper into the mind of the student. Well, it's the same thing with these concepts, these principles that we're teaching in the Peaceful Solution as a teacher. Remember what it was said in previous classes, how do you measure the effectiveness of this character education program? Well, it's through behavioral changes. So as we interact with the students throughout the day, throughout the week, or if you're using this at home, I know we do have a lot of people that homeschool their children, then you have to look at the behavior of the students to see if they're modeling those concepts that are being taught, and if not, go back and rehearse them again. Okay, there's nothing wrong with going back and revisiting those the principles that we've taught here. We went over. You can't go over it too much. Is basically what I'm saying. All right. So if you read over that page 49 there, that's that song My Family and Me. Let's look back there to LP2E. LP2E, and we're going to look at, we'll go over these, because we will need to read these procedures here. We'll look at Procedure 8 and Procedure 9. All right, Procedure 8 says, the exercise found on pages 50 through 51 of the student's handbook is designed to allow students to gain a better understanding of their individual families. Okay, and this is important for them to understand because like personality, people tend to look at other families as the one that they want to be in, right? As the old saying, the grass is always greener on the other side. Okay, but they don't tend to look at their own family and in a lot of cases see a lot of the benefits that are there at home. Sometimes students might grow up in a, kind of an impoverished home, but their needs are taken care of. They have food, they have clothing, they have shelter. But because they don't see the importance of that, they might not like their home life. Okay. And so as we went over this and we talked about what a healthy family is, this will give them the opportunity to look back and reflect on their home life, because they might be a little bit poor, but they have food, clothing, and shelter, and they're not physically, verbally, or sexually abused. I would say that that's a great family to be in. But sometimes you have to open their minds and to be able to see these important points, because it's easy to look at the personality of something. It's easy to look at the outside of something and think that that's what you want, to think that that's the more joyous way of life. Okay, but this gives them the opportunity to better understand their individual families. Now, it'll also explore other family members of the value. It'll also expose other family members to the value of positive moral character within the family, as well as areas that the students can improve on. Assign the exercise Family Matters Family Assessment as a take-home assignment. So essentially this would be homework for the students. Instruct students to interview their family members based on the instructions on the sheet. Do a follow-up and allow students to discuss what they learn about themselves and their families. Okay, and then of course that's on page 50 and page 51, and there's a series of 6 questions, and that's family members' name, and gives you some lines that you can ask 3 family members, and then their answers below those questions in the corresponding columns. All right, and then lesson plan or procedure 9, excuse me. We're still on LP2E. It says, encourage students to read the section on page 52, and that's what we're going to be covering this evening, entitled What I Have Learned. Of course, this is a recap of a summary of everything that we went over in the previous chapter. And so this is what we're going to do today. Conclude the lesson by reiterating that the goal of every parent should be to provide safety, food, shelter, clothing, guidance, love, and appropriate affection to their children. Now keep in mind what we covered in the previous classes regarding love and the concepts of love in regards to upholding the rules, okay? Never to be confused with inappropriate touch. Although every family will have its negatives and positives, a family should be a loving and supportive unit. Okay, a loving and supportive unit. In this way, each member of the family will have the opportunity to develop a positive character, and that's very important, to give someone the opportunity to make a right choice. In society where a person is continuously bombarded with negative influences, in their own homes, they don't really see many positive influences. They're not taught any positive concepts, or the negative concepts far outweigh the positive concepts that they're taught, or the teachings that they're taught in the home. They really don't have the opportunity to develop a positive character. In order to have an opportunity to do so, you have to have both sides of the coin, so to speak. You have to have the positive things taught to you, and you have to be able to see and distinguish between positive and negative, so that you have the opportunity to make the choice as to which direction you want to go. Of course, as we covered in the beginning of chapter 1, the hope is that we'll take the road less traveled, okay, because that leads to a successful life. It says there, I'll just reread that last part. It says, although every family will have its negatives and positives, a family should be a loving and supportive unit. In this way, each member of the family will have the opportunity to develop a positive character. The definition of that word unit there, it is a noun, and it simply means an individual thing or person regarded as a single or as single and complete, but which can also form an individual component of a larger or more complex whole. Okay, so that larger or more complex whole that we're referring to in this chapter is the family unit. Okay, and each member of that family unit, plays a part in, as we learned from chapter 1, and of course in this chapter as well, the development of the character in every other member in that family unit, including theirs as well. Okay, because remember, it's our family members and our parents and siblings and so forth that help in the development of the things we value and the development of our character as well. Well, we also do the same thing towards other people who are in our family. So let's look over to page 52 here. Page 52. All right. And this is the title or the section, What I Have Learned. And we're going to be covering 8 points this evening. Let's see here. And let's look at the first checkbox there, point 1. It says, my parents and other family members play an important part in the development of my character and personality, okay? Like we learned in the chapter 1, and of course in this one here too, those factors that help to develop a person's character includes environment, the influences, and the family values, right? Family values. Well, your environment, for the most part, for your first 4 or 5 years, you spend mostly at home, okay? Unless you're in a situation where, you don't, babysitters and things like that. But for the most part, at the end of the day, you do go back home. But let's look at page 35. We'll look at page 35 and 36. And this, of course, these are where these components are realized here. Page 35 and 36 there we see, page 36. At the very beginning there of the chapter, in the introduction, it says, your parents and your environment, as well as other siblings and family members, play a major role in what you value and the development of your character. Now remember, of course, values are things that are important to you, okay? And your environment is pretty much everything around you. The people that you spend the time with, the neighborhood you grow up in, the school, all those things play a part in your environment. Well, all of these play a major role in what you value and the development of your character. But keep in mind, as we've said previously, that's not a necessarily fixed situation that you're in. Okay, now your character begins to be shaped from the moment that you're conceived up through the time when you start making decisions on your own. But even if you've developed certain characteristics into a person's adolescent or teenage life, because this, what this is directed to, but it applies to everyone. Even if you're 50 or 60 or 100 years old, you can still change. Okay, even though the influences that came from home, the family values and so forth, played a major role in the development of your character, it's important to allow the students to reiterate to them that they're not stuck in that situation. Their past does not have to define their future. Okay, it might, of course, it has shaped them up to who they are right now, because it's only shaped based on the tools and the information that was given to them up until the point that they start to learn the peaceful solution. So there are a combination of the things that they grew up around, the values and the teachings and influences up to that point. But from this point forward, now with being equipped with the tools, the knowledge, the education to make better choices and become a person of integrity in the development of a positive character, they can turn that whole thing around from that day forward. And it's important to express that to them, because a lot of people feel hopeless in their life, right? They grow up in an environment where hope is not expressed, right? You're going to end up being just like, your father or your uncle, he was in jail at X amount, a time, or he was, killed on the streets at this age, or you're just going to end up on welfare or this or that, or, and they just continuously reiterate these negative sayings to the person, and it kind of demoralizes them. But of course, the peaceful solution gives them hope. It helps them to see that no, you're not stuck in that situation. We acknowledge and recognize that, okay, there are some areas in my character that are not positive. Now, what can I do to change it? And that's what we want to do. We want to focus on the positive, accentuate the positive, and work on eliminating the negative. Okay, well, you got to know what the negative is in order to eliminate it, and that comes through this process of education. Let's see, it says the role, look at the second paragraph there. It says the role of parents and the family in shaping a positive or negative character cannot be overstated. Okay, and of course in this chapter you will learn that character plays a key role in families. A negative and or positive character has the ability to destroy a family or strengthen and build the family unit. Okay, and then if we look over to page 36 there, continuing in with this this first point, page 36, I'll just reread it again. It says, my parents and other family members play an important part in the development of my character and personality. Page 36, it says, let's see here, and the second, no. 1, 2, 3. Third paragraph there, towards the kind of the bottom of the paragraph there, it says, the combination of character, personality, environment, and experiences makes each person one of a kind. However, the most significant factors that shape you, excuse me, that shape you into who you are your parents and other family members. It is from these two sources that you learn what to value, how to behave, and how to respond to different situations. All of these things help to shape your character, and of course, like we mentioned previously, people who grow up in homes or in environments where violence and lashing out and the uncontrolled display of anger are continuously displayed, they themselves will eventually do the same things when they're at school and interacting with others, when they're in the neighborhood or on the playground or wherever they are. They're going to respond in those situations if someone does something that irritates them, and they've seen how family members previously handled irritating situations, possibly even with them. Sometimes parents will lash out when they're burdened with a lot of things, and if there's a lot of children in the home or whatever the case might be, and they're asking for things, mom, dad, can I do this? Or, get off me, you're getting on my last nerve. And I've heard that a few times growing up. I don't know how many last nerves my mom had, but apparently I think I jumped on several of them. But I mean, in those situations, a child could respond in that same way towards others. Okay, and because these are like we've learned previously, and we're going to learn as we get into the next chapter, these are influences, right? And the child sees those things, and children, they pick up more on what they see and experience than what you verbally tell them. Okay, when it comes to instruction, anyway, we talked about some of the negative things that can be said through verbal abuse, and yes, that does affect a person. So I'm not saying that's irrelevant, but when it comes to directing a child in a positive way, if a parent sits there and tells a child not to do something that's negative or bad for their health, but the parent is doing it, the child is going to see that more than what the parent said. Don't smoke, it's bad for your health. Well, grandma's like 90 something years old and she still smokes. Okay. Don't run in the house, you're going to hurt yourself, or whatever the case might be. So it's important that we model these things as parents and teachers. And point out to the children as well, the students as well, that even though you might see certain things taking place in your family, go back to the concepts of the peaceful solution. If what is being said or what is being done brings harm to that person or to someone else, then you shouldn't do it. Okay, this goes back to moral principles or moral values, which relates to rules. All right, and let's see here. Did I cover that? Oh, yeah, I sure did. Okay, I have that note there twice. All right, so that's point number one. My parents and other family members play an important part in the development of my character and personality. Okay, number two there, it says all of my interactions and experiences affect the way I grow and what I value. And notice that first word there, all of my interactions and experiences. And as we're going to see as we prepare to move into the next chapter, which is, really getting into influences, because those influences are continuously around us, even at home, even when the child is young and growing up in their formative years. Those are still influences that, and their interactions with their family members, they affect the way that individual grows and, of course, what they value. And we talked about some of the positive values that can be developed in early childhood, but also some of the negative values that can be developed as well. Let's see here. That word there, let me see. Okay. I'm sorry. No, I looked at the definition. I thought I had it written down wrong. The word there, and of course we've covered this before. I just want to remind you, interactions. It's a reciprocal action or influence. A reciprocal action and influence. In the definition here, it says how we interact on a person. But it's the reciprocal action or influence on someone or something. You think about reciprocal. Most of us, guys here, we know about what a reciprocal saw is, right? Or AKA sawzall, right? The saw that goes back and forth like this when you squeeze the trigger and it goes faster. Well, yeah, they call it a reciprocating saw, okay? Because it goes forward and it cuts, it goes backward and it cuts, right? And so it's kind of, when we interact with people, we reciprocate those interactions, okay? And so if someone interacts with us in a negative way and we're not trained and we respond in a negative way too, we're reciprocating that negative behavior. But it does not always have to be a negative reciprocation. We could, respond to them in a positive way, okay? But it says the definition of reciprocal is something given, felt, or done in return. Given, felt, or done in return. And all of this makes up our interactions and our experiences, of course, as well. Of course, these affect the way we grow and what we value. Well, let's keep in mind that, the way I grow, up to the point when you start to receive a different set of tools, a different set of information, you can start to change the direction that you're growing. Okay, I like to compare the peaceful solution to like a ray of light, so to speak. Okay, if you've ever been outside and you've seen like a flower or grass, if you've ever noticed a flower, even sunflowers in the morning, they will tend to face the sun. And grass will do the same thing too. Any golfers will know that, if you're playing grass at a certain time of day, that grass blade, it'll move throughout the day because it tracks the sun. It follows the sun. Plants track the sun, okay? Well, when a person grows up in a dysfunctional home, it's kind of like a dark side of their life, okay? And so as a result, they're not able to really grow and to become the most that they can be. Well, when the peaceful solution is given to them, it's like light. It's like a ray of light to them, to a plant, right? And plants, they thrive on it. Photosynthesis, they turn that into beneficial things for us, and oxygen and moisture and water and things like that. So, as they receive it, as plants receive it, you ever looked underneath a pallet or a board that you had in your yard, and you pick it up and the grass is all like pale and yellow and everything. And after a few days, that grass starts to turn nice and green and lush. Well, that's what the peaceful solution is. It's that light that can help a person grow in a positive way, but of course they have to be taught it. And so the point of being that saying is that once the light is there, that information is there, they can change the direction in which they're growing. So let's look at page 36 again there. All of my interactions and experiences affect the way I grow and what I value. We'll look at page 36 and 38. Um, which one am I on? Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that was basically what we just read there. The combination of character, personality, environment, and experience makes each person one of a kind. However, the most significant factors that shape you into the way you grow are your parents and other family members. Now, if you back up there to the top, not top, but the first sentence in the second paragraph, it says, family members also share personality traits, but unlike character traits, which are sometimes inherited genetically, shared personality traits are often learned behaviors. A learned behavior is something you see and then practice. And that's the thing about experiences. Experiences, it's merely an event, an event or an occurrence that leaves an impression on someone. Okay, an experience is an event or an occurrence that leaves an impression on a person, on an individual. Okay, and of course these affect, like if a person was neglected as a child, they might not like being by themselves, right? So they might have what people call separation anxiety, okay? Or they might like being by themselves more because that experience impacted them, and they don't like being around people. Okay, so these are some of the things that help shape the way a person grows and what they value. Let's look at page. Well, if we look at page 38, we see how that pertains to the parent, but also the students. They're eventually going to become parents and adults themselves. It says in the first paragraph, under when there are problems at home, towards the middle, it says an adult's experiences, values, and character define what kind of parent he or she will be. Even the students that we're teaching at this time, they will eventually become parents. They'll definitely become adults, but they'll become parents possibly one day. Although most parents treat their children with love and respect and provide them with food, safety, and shelter, there are some parents, because of their upbringing and choices, who are verbally, emotionally, physically, and even sexually abusive to their children. All right, and so let's look at page 40 there. Okay, let's see here. In the first paragraph, second sentence, it says, when someone grows up in the home where there is physical and sexual abuse, their self-concept and character development will be affected. Okay, and of course, self-concept is the way you see yourself, and these are factors, these are influences, these are experiences that a person goes through or might go through in their family life that affects the development of their character. All right, and so it's important for the student to know that, because, and again, they're going to evaluate their own self. They're going to, when they take this assignment home, the family matter assignment, they're going to evaluate their family life. And so this gives them an opportunity to take a long, hard look, so to speak, at their environment and their home life. Now that they understand a little bit about what values are, about what environment is, and so forth, and give them the tools and resources to evaluate how their family life is. Okay? And so, but all those things, their interactions, experience, affect the way that they grow and what I value. And again, like I said, it's not permanent. Anybody can change with the right environment, experiences, and influences. You have to take those negative influences and environments and experiences and turn them into positive ones, right? And then you'll start that person will start to change their values. Their mind will change. All right. Let's see here. Let's look at point number 3. It says families that suffer from emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, as well as alcohol and substance abuse, also experience the most damaging effects on the development of positive character. But even that can be changed with effort. Effort, example, and teaching the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program on my part. Okay, so it's referring to the student who's looking at this and receiving this information, because they might feel trapped. They might feel like, this is just what I've grown up in. There's nothing I can do about it. No, there is something that each individual can do about it. We have no control over what mom and dad and brother and sister or uncle or whoever extended family might be staying with us or might not be staying with us, but might come and visit from time to time. But we do have control over ourselves, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act, and the way we respond to the things that are done to us or said to us. And this gives them those resources that they need. So let's see here. Page 38. Let's look at page 38. And we just read that top part there. When someone grows up in a home where there's physical and sexual abuse, their self-concept and character development will be affected. Well, let's look down to the last, second to last sentence in that first paragraph. It says, these emotions, the negative concept, tend to be sad and depressed and angry and resentful. Well, it says these emotions can lead to negative character traits such as being hateful, aggressive, and revengeful. These negative character traits will often result in violent behaviors. Okay, look down to the first sentence underneath the case study there about Cheryl, who, of course, we read there how she was being, sexually abused. Her mother was being abused, and but she was abused as well. It says here, it is clear to see that abuse has a negative effect on character. Okay, Cheryl became revengeful and arranged for her father to be killed. Not her mother. I was thinking about a different accounting there. But she arranged for her father to be killed. Okay, so we see how these negative things affected her character and the choices she made. Let's look at the very bottom there. At the very last sentence there, it says, here are some other problems that affect the home and the development of a positive character, because we're talking about these things having an effect on the development of a positive character. And these are some of the negative things that take place in a home, such as alcoholism, domestic violence, substance abuse, and divorce. And there are many more things that can take place, but these are just four things that are very common in society right now. Alcoholism and substance abuse is to be dependent upon alcohol, drugs, or drugs. And these substances are highly addictive. Domestic violence is the use of physical force to injure or abuse another within the family. Okay, and that's why it's domestic. And then down here underneath, read the following statistics of the effects divorce has on children. We've seen there from the previous teacher, 63% of children from divorce homes suffer from anxiety, sadness, moodiness, phobias, that is fear of different things, and depression. 56% of the children's grades dropped in school or have grades below their ability. And also 43% display aggression towards parents, okay, because they don't know how to deal with those emotions that they're going through as well. And then let's look at page 42. Yeah, page 42 there. We see some of the cold, hard facts that we covered there as well. These things that negatively, they have effects on the development of a positive character. We talked about some of the emotions there, the fear and anxiety and depression, anger and hostility, inappropriate sexual behavior, poor concept of themselves, and difficulty in forming relationships. Mental problems can be a result of it. Long-term mental problems as well. Children, at the very last part there, it says children whose parents abuse drugs or alcohol have a greater opportunity of being emotionally, physically, and sexually abused as well. Okay, so we see a lot of these things that we covered here, and then there's some examples of Ricky and Ricky and Shante and what they went through and how it affected them and their character and their interactions with others in the development of their character. But these are things that take place on a regular basis, every day. Let me see here. Was I going to cover that? Okay, no, we already did. All right, so that's point number 3 there. Um, let's see here. Let's look at number 4. Checkbox number 4 there. It says, in homes such as these, now this is spinning off of the third point there, where families suffer from emotional, sexual, or physical and sexual abuse, as well as alcohol and substance abuse. Well, in homes such as these, which this falls under the category of dysfunctional, as we talked about previously, there is a great deal of fear. Okay, a great deal of fear, violence, hostility, and resentment. But notice what is being said to the student here. But I see that I can help myself and others as well. This I am capable of doing. Well, if you look over to page 47, look over to page 47, and let's look at the third paragraph down. And it says, you can begin improving your family life by using moral character traits when interacting with your parents, siblings, and other family members. You can start by being respectful in your daily conversations and by being responsible and doing your share of chores. You must also remember to be humble, especially if you have done something wrong and your parents are trying to correct you, or giving you advice on ways you could have better handled the situation. The character traits of respect and humility, when used on a consistent basis, will reduce many conflicts and arguments between family members, and especially between you and your parents. So the next time your brother or sister does something that annoys you, use patience and positive communication to express your feelings in an appropriate way. This means no name calling or purposely trying to hurt his or her feelings. Then be willing to forgive. Keep reminding him or her on page 48 that you would prefer hearing a request for permission before touching your things. Always be the one to set the right example to avoid conflicts. Okay, always be the ones to set the right example to avoid conflicts. And this can be very difficult for a young person. It's sometimes very difficult for adults to set the right example when they're, someone's saying something or doing something to them that's very disrespectful, okay, or that they might perceive as very disrespectful. Well, to humble themselves and respond in an appropriate way or respectful way, that could be a challenge, right? But it does become easier over time. But in setting the right example, look at the next sentence there. Model these things to help others learn from you too. Remember, model these things so others can learn from you too by your example. And that's what we're covering here. I can help myself and others as well. And of course, when we are trained, when they're taught these things, then they'll put them into practice. And in a lot of cases, and we've heard it many times, that parents see the change in their students' behavior and their attitude after starting to learn the peaceful solution. And it's just little things at first. It's not like they're all of a sudden, some type of saint or anything like that. But it's the little things that the parent knows, okay? Because sometimes parents struggle to train their children and to bring them up because, life doesn't come per se with an instruction booklet on how to raise a child, and everybody has different personalities, different characters, and there might be some other issues that are involved with raising the child that are uncontrollable, certain mental issues and things like that. And parents do, in most cases, they do try to do their very best. Well, it can be very difficult for them, but when their child is taught this character education program, and they start to grasp hold of it, it's kind of put on their level where they can understand it, then they start making small changes. Like, it might be just something as simple as saying, yes, mom, or yes, dad, okay? Or not arguing back, right? Sometimes children like to get the last word in everything, right? Go clean your room. I don't want to clean my room. Well, you need to clean your room. Why doesn't somebody else clean it? Why don't you clean it if you want to clean it? Children like to argue back. They always want to get the last word and things like that. Well, when they start to realize, well, that's not the proper way to respond to, your parents, and they stop doing that, parents take notice of that, okay? And so this it makes an impression in the parent's mind, okay? And so they start to inquire, well, what is it that they're learning from this peaceful solution? If it's helping my child, then it probably can help me too, okay? And they start to learn the information themselves. And then that way you can see the whole family start to develop this positive character. And we're going to cover a little bit of why it's important for the whole family to learn these things to make the family complete. So it says here, this I am capable of doing, okay? Because each person is capable of putting these things into effect to start to change their character. All right, let's look at 1, 2, 3, 4, number 5 there, or point 5 there. It says these these emotions, and I just put in there for my notes, negative emotions, lead to negative character traits such as hatred, aggression, and revenge. But I can find ways to assist in all problems as I grow and develop my moral character traits. And of course, we just covered those things that we talked about on page 47 and 48. Each person doing their part to practice moral principles. That's how a person can assist in all problems as they grow and develop their moral character traits. Like I said before, I kind of jumped ahead of myself, not arguing back, doing your part, following the instructions that the parents give you, doing your chores as they're assigned to you, and so forth, keeping your room clean. And this is how the person or the child can assist in all problems. And of course, that was, like I said, page 47 there, 47 and 48. Let's see there. So let's look at number 6 there. It says, in healthy moral families, violence and abuse are discouraged because positive values and positive character traits based on respect and compassion are at the core of all interactions between family members. Notice here at the bottom there, again, as a kind of a positive note to the student, I will also do my part to assure complete peace within my family. Okay, and so there at the top there says in a healthy family, or in healthy moral families, and just you keep this in mind, for your notes, but also reiterating to your students in regards to morals. We keep going back to that, and we're always going to keep going back to that to keep it fresh and on the forefront of our minds. Moral families are families that apply the rules that don't bring harm to anyone, but instead, bring about those positive attributes, the health and the safety, the love and the appropriate affection in the family. And violence is discouraged, and so forth. And let's just jump back to page. This is from chapter 1, but this just ties into morals there. At the very top, it's technically third sentence. It says a moral value is like a line that divides wrong behavior from right behavior. People from all walks of life, young or old, big or small, rich or poor, share some of the same basic concepts of moral values. And then we see the 3 categories there. And then we look at the first paragraph underneath those 3 categories, moral principles, right? In regards to human life means acknowledging and accepting that life is valuable and all people have the potential to contribute to society. And of course, this is important because we're talking about the effects of character within the family. And when we deal with the family unit, we're dealing with people, right? We're dealing with other people within our family. Let's see. Did I skip a part? Oh, when you have a moral attitude towards others, you accept and appreciate that they have the right to live in peace, safety, and security. And this is a part of what you find in a healthy family: peace, safety, and security. Well, let's look also back to page 44, or look forward to page 44 there, from page 8. And this is where we covered what is a healthy family. Okay, what is a healthy family? And it says there in the first paragraph, kind of towards the middle where the mother is hugging the daughter there, it says the difference between a healthy family and that between a healthy family that has been trained or have trained themselves in moral character and a dysfunctional one is that in a healthy family, all members are given the love, respect, and support that is needed to develop moral character traits. In families educated in positive moral character, appropriate affection is shown to all members, right? So there shouldn't be a black sheep of the family, right? This one's the youngest, or this one's the middle, or that one's the oldest, or whatever. I mean, all members of the family should be shown this appropriate affection and so forth. Let's see here. Lost my place. In families educated in positive moral character, appropriate affection. Okay, yeah, is shown to all members. In other words, it is appropriate for members of a family to display true love. Remember that ties into upholding the rules and concern, congratulations, appreciation, and sometimes a loving hug. And this is not to be confused with the inappropriate touch of sexual molestation. Let's look down to the next paragraph there. It says, in these families, children communicate their needs to parents in positive ways, right? They communicate their needs to parents in positive ways, not like in one of the elementary series for the children that taught. There's a scenario there where Kathy's doll, and she was screaming at her mother, I want that doll now, Well, she wasn't communicating at least her desire. That wasn't necessarily a need, in a positive way. Okay, and so you also see this in teenagers as well, sometimes adults as well, but where this is taught and respect is mutually shown between parents and children and siblings and so forth, then the children will communicate these things in a positive way. Children also respond. Sometimes children will communicate their needs in a negative way, and sometimes this is done through stealing. Okay, they might need something, but they go about it in an inappropriate way of doing it. So where these character traits are taught, they're taught there's nothing wrong with this thing that you need or even something that they want, but this is the proper way to go about it. Keep the rules in obtaining the things that you want, and you'll never have to suffer a consequence with it. Children also respond to their parents with respect. And if anybody's ever watched I say Maury Povich, I don't think he's on anymore, a Dr. Phil show or something, sometimes you see those scenarios, those episodes where, the mother and the son, have been brought onto the show because the son is just completely, unruly to his mother or his father, and slapping her and yelling at her and so forth and things like that. Well, you won't see that in a healthy family. And of course, if they were trained in these things and given some time, that would eventually turn around as well. It says members of the family verbally express their care and concern for each other by saying, I love you or I appreciate you. And then at the bottom there, that first paragraph, in these families, physical and mental health are also valued. Therefore, the abuse of alcohol or drugs is discouraged. All right. Okay, so that was page 44 there. I wanted to make another note here. Oh, yes. Let me reread that point there. It says, in healthy moral families, violence and abuse are discouraged because positive values and positive character traits based on respect and compassion are at the core of all interactions between family members. I will also do my part to assure complete peace within my family. That word there, core, compassion, respect and compassion are at the core of all interactions between family members. That word, the definition of that word core there, I bet you, most of you, when you think of the word core, you thought of apple core. I could be wrong, but that's the first thought of core that came into my mind, right? And most of us don't want to eat the apple core, but from that core, other apples can be brought forth. And it says the central or most important part of something. That's the definition of the word core. The central or most important part of something. The part of something that is central to its existence or character. The part of something that is central to its existence or character. And of course, as we learn these concepts, right, they're changing, they're shaping, they're molding our heart and mind. And these concepts are at the core of our character. They're at the core of our existence. Our existence is, is who we are, right? It's how we act and how we exist, how we interact in our everyday lives with other people, or even when we're by ourselves. Okay, and so it's important that to understand that these things are at the core of all interactions between family members. So if the interactions between family members are not healthy, it's because there's kind of a rotten core there, right? And it has to be replaced with these positive principles, these concepts that we're learning here. But it says here at that last part, it says, I will also do my part to assure complete peace within my family. And 2 points I wanted to make there in regarding that complete peace with my family. And this is something that you can kind of iterate to your students, because especially in today's society, we're used to everything being so instant and quick, right? And that once we start to put something in practice, we should start to see full benefits immediately. Well, even though there are some things you'll start to see changes immediately when we start to practice the peaceful solution, the majority of the things that we see takes place over a period of time. And so it does take time for everyone to start to make this change and to turn their hearts and change their hearts and their minds and start to go down a positive path instead of a negative path. But also, everyone must mutually uphold and practice the moral principles for there to be complete peace. Okay, the family, every member of the family must, because if you have one member of that family, you can have a family of 5, and 4 people are doing everything they can to practice complete peace, and one person goes against the grain, right? It can disrupt the peace in the entire family, right? Now, it doesn't mean everybody in the family has to give up everything because this one member, didn't practice self-control, but there's an imbalance there, okay? And so it's important, to let them know, hey, it's going to take some time. Don't be discouraged if everybody doesn't jump on the peace train, so to speak. It's going to take some time. You continue to maintain your integrity and practice the things you have learned. And at the very least, you are improving yourself and are being a benefit to your family. And so let's look at point number 7 there. It says that although the average family might not have all the qualities of a all the qualities of a healthy moral family, family members can nonetheless learn to develop the values and character that will make their family healthier. In fact, just as a note there in that word core, we won't go back there, but associate that with core with what we learned on page 18 in regards to integrity. All right, integrity, the internalization, and something internal is something on the inside. Okay, a core is also on the inside. Okay, and so these character traits help. They're at the center of your core and they make you who you are. So that's just kind of a little reference there. That core, that internalization of these positive character traits on page 18. Well, on page 47, in regards to point number 7 that we're talking about here. Page 47, and we'll look at the middle there. Yes. Families, like individuals, have both negative and positive traits. However, family relationships can be improved when each member, notice here, each member begins to develop moral character traits while at the same time eliminating the negative traits. This can be accomplished if everyone, and this is why it's necessary to kind of reiterate this to point to your students, because everyone might not be willing to do this. It might seem odd. It might seem strange to them at first, as change usually is to people when they grow up in an environment where that's not taught. Respect is not really highly valued. People sometimes see respect as, I'm going to beat the snot out of you and that'll teach you respect, right? but it doesn't, right? It teaches hatred and revenge and retaliation and depression and things of that nature. But this can be accomplished if everyone begins to value how a moral character can improve the quality of his or her family. But notice here, even if you are the only one in your family who sees the value of a moral character, you can, by your example, encourage others to value developing an upright moral character as well, because our example is just an important contributing factor to our other family members as theirs is to ours. And lastly there, point number 8, it says, I can be the example to other family members when I display a positive character and when I teach by example what I have learned from the peaceful solution. And on page 48 there, we just read that, but we'll read it again. It says, always be the one to set the right example to avoid conflicts. Model these things to help others learn from you too. Remember, it could be you who gets on your siblings' nerves the next time. How would you want to be treated? There are many ways a positive character can be used to strengthen a family. So consciously, make an effort to practice using your positive character traits every day, and by your example, encourage others to do the same. Okay, and so that kind of wraps up this chapter here, chapter 2, and what I have learned in regards to the effects of character within the family. And just it's important for us to reiterate to the students that, because when you're dealing with a family, and they're kind of going to learn about society, for family is kind of like a small society within a house, right? But they only have the ability to control what they can do. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that they don't have an effect on their family, because they do, right? But we want them to see that they can have a positive effect on their family, and that they don't have to reciprocate those negative traits or those negative influences that were shown to them. At the bottom there of the page there, it says, the strength of a family lies in positive character. And of course, as we close out there, I want you to keep in mind what strength is. It's not necessarily muscles. It can be used to describe muscles, but it says the quality or state of being strong, capacity for exertion or endurance. And it's important that they continue to endure in practicing these concepts, these principles that they're taught, and never give up. It says the power to resist force. And that's important because we're getting ready to talk about some external forces in this next chapter of the making of a VIP. And so it's important that they understand that their strength, it doesn't lie within their muscles, but it lies within their mind and their ability to resist negative influences and so forth. The power of resisting attack. And it also says in regards to legality, when you think about legal, think about laws, think about rules, think about morals. Logical, legal, logical, or moral force, right? So the power to resist those negative influences coming at you and have the ability to respond in a positive way can be defined as strength. And remember, we grow stronger the more we learn these things and the more we put them into practice. Okay, so that will wrap up today's class. And next class will be 1:20 at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We look forward to seeing everyone there, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next class. Thank you very much.